Best scene of Rebekah's closet. Exterior, Paris Street, day. Rebekah and Rupert are walking to her apartment after breakfast at a cafe. They are holding hands. Rupert is walking in rhythm with Rebekah as best he can, but something is wrong. Rebekah is deeply dissociated, more than usual today. He stops and puts a hand on her shoulder, then strokes her hair.
Hey baby, where are you?
Rebekah stops. She takes a deep breath, trying to form her words carefully, speaking slowly. She is flooding with flashbacks and hadn't wanted to say anything to Rupert.
I'm sorry, sweetie. It's just all the junk in my head. Hard to be in the moment.
Rebekah covers her ears with her hands, like she can't stop the sound, the pain in her head, inside and out, that doesn't stop.
I hear my brothers shouting curse words at me. Foul things I would never say.
Rebekah sticks her tongue out completely, feeling the sodomy. She feels like a mad woman again. She doesn't care.
The flashbacks of the abuse. Like it's right now.
Rebekah opens her mouth all the way and pretends to scream. She feels like she's going to lose her mind.
It's in my mouth.
Rebekah feels helpless again. Nothing works, anyway. She brings her hands down.
Hey, do you have any chewing gum to get the taste out?
No. Let's go get something for you, though.
Rupert shakes his head. He looks around for a moment before speaking, then back at Rebekah.
Wait. It's been like this for months now. Can anything be done?
Rosmemarie says that if I can stand this intensity for a little while longer...
Rebekah looks around, mimicking Rupert.
I'll know the full details of what happened to me growing up.
Rupert is insistent, though. He's had enough of this already, and his true feelings are coming through, in spite of his restraint around Rebekah, which he tries to keep for her sake, knowing how much she gets triggered.
But at what price, Rebekah?
Rupert pulls Rebekah just enough out of the path of passerbys on the sidewalk, into a garden-like space with a soothing fountain.
You're so distant. From me, from your friends.
Rebekah nods her head. She's helpless to fix the situation, starts to cry. Rupert strokes the tears from her face and puts his hand on her shoulders.
You're living in the past, obsessed with the abuse.
Rebekah nods again, sniffles softly.
Can't you be happy in the present, for what we have now?
I can't help the memories. I can't help having multiple personalities or getting depressed.
Rebekah focuses on her breath, trying to get her mind and emotions to calm down so she can speak again.
My heart is so broken from all the abuse and betrayal. It's like my heart's dead. Something.
Rebekah gazes off into the distance, absolutely numb.
I don't feel anything positive anymore. Joy, compassion, love.
Rebekah looks back at Rupert like a child, not knowing how to express herself.
I know I have a heart, but it's gone somewhere right now.
Oh, baby, don't say that. Of course you have a heart. You're a very loving person. I know that.
But I can't feel love, warmth.
Rebekah starts to cry loudly now, bowing her head. Rupert holds her.
Please talk to Rosmemarie about medication. This has gone too far.
Rebekah vehemently shakes her head. No, not willing to say it out loud to Rupert. She is scared. Rebekah and Rupert stand there holding each other. Rebekah cries and focuses on her breathing. The water fountain sends soothing sounds into the air. Rupert is beside himself. He is used to being so patient, but as a caregiver, he is burnt out. He is having a hard time calming down anymore. For now, he is just going to have to breathe it down, just like Rebekah.
Okay, just breathe it down. That's all we've got, one day at a time.
Rebekah nods and focuses on her breath, tries to keep it slow and steady. Her eyes are as big as saucers, in shock from so much trauma. Interior, Rupert's loft apartment, Paris, some months later. Rebekah is in the kitchen, slicing beautiful peaches on a rustic wooden cutting board with a large knife. She's angry, having trouble keeping it together. There's a patch of sunlight from a window near her. She curses from time to time, then apologizes, then shakes her head, laughs madly. Rupert arrives home from work with a mail from Rebecca's apartment. Rupert frowns and has trouble looking Rebecca in the eye, which makes her immediately more anxious than she already is.
I've got mail from your hometown, Rebecca.
Rupert finally looks her in the eye. They both are stock still for a moment.
What could it be?
Rebecca puts the knife down, and it rattles to a stop. Rupert puts everything down, gets organized as if that is possible anymore. He's having even more trouble keeping himself together these days, and it shows. Dark circles under his usually perfect eyes, shaking hands, which concerns him as a photographer. Rebecca, now confused and dumbstruck, washes her hands and dries them on a dish towel. Rupert finds the envelope from the USA, stands, waiting patiently for Rebecca to turn to him. Rebecca is scared to death, beginning to shake all over and begins to go into shock. With all of her courage, Rebecca turns around from the kitchen counter to Rupert and reaches for the envelope. Rupert shakes his head.
Let's sit down.
Rupert pulls out a chair by the nearby farm table. Rebecca accepts, sitting gingerly, with the unopened envelope in her hands, her body still shaking. Rupert sits beside her, hand on her thigh for support. He is so emotionally and physically burnt out. Now this.
You can do this, Rebecca, no matter what.
Rebecca nods, unable to speak, shaking, terrified. She studies the envelope and gasps at the returned address.
It's from an attorney, a friend I went to kindergarten with.
Rebecca shakes her head, remembering.
Great guy.
Rebecca smiles fondly.
Stay focused, Rebecca.
Rebecca shakes all over, as if she were breaking into little bits of china held together by wire.
So my friend knows what's in here.
Rupert puts his hand on Rebecca's hand, but Rebecca jumps.
It's going to be all right.
Rebecca snaps at Rupert angrily. Rupert backs down patiently for the time being.
Let me do it!
Rebecca opens the metal clasp, tape, and gum seals in the envelope as carefully as she can, as angry as she now is. She pulls the contents out and lays everything out before her, hands still shaking. Rebecca gasps again, overwhelmed with grief, falling back into the chair, pushing it over for Rupert to read. Rebecca begins crying, covers her mouth, and then her eyes.
It's going to be okay. Wait a minute.
Rupert reaches for the papers quickly. Just as carefully as Rebecca opened the envelope, he begins to scan them with his eyes. Then Rupert gasps.
Oh, Rebecca. I'm so sorry.
Rupert sits back a little in his chair. Rupert takes a breath. Rebecca is crying more loudly now into her hands, not even knowing why. Then Rupert says,
He must have passed in July.
Rebecca uncovers swollen eyes, her mouth shaking and blue. Rupert picks up the envelope, looks inside, shakes his head. Rupert carefully looks through the papers of the will stapled together.
No cover letter? Nothing. Just your father's will.
Rupert lets out a big sigh and lowers his head, shaking it again from side to side.
Damn shame, Rebecca. Do you want to read what your father left you in his will?
Rebecca starts crying again loudly, shaking her head, angry, sad, lost beyond belief, confused.
Not really. Daddy always said he was gonna take us out of the will when he got mad.
She shrugs, speaking from some lost place deep down.
I'm sure he was pretty mad at me by the time he wrote that.
I'm so sorry, Rebecca. I don't know what to say. Is there anything I can do?
Rupert reaches for her. Rebecca, tears streaming down her face, shrugs her shoulders again. She stares straight ahead, not at Rupert.
I wish I knew.
She has a jolt like lightning run through her body and shakes her head a few times.
It's so mixed up for Daddy, you know? And now he's gone.
Interior Counselor's Office, Paris, day.
I just can't get used to the thought of Daddy as a pedophile.
There are parts of you that are holding on to the father you love.
Of course. I'd always love him.
Rebecca looks away, remembering, wistful. Angry, wistful, angry.
He was such a charmer. Adorable, even.
Charming as a way into the victim. Sometimes that's the way they work.
But this was my Daddy. Compared to Mama, he was so warm.
Rebecca is suddenly extremely angry.
Now I realize how everything was laced with sexuality in our house.
Rebecca wraps her arms around herself for safety.
The way he tucked me into bed, woke me in the morning. That special game in Daddy's lap.
It will take time to parse out the bad from the good, to make sense of your father.
The rest of my life. To make sense of my family.